All right, Nick, let's talk about the Chicago Bears here for a minute. After you lock up that first round pick, stuff starts swirling around in your head. You think of all of the potential possibilities, and maybe some crazy thoughts start to creep into your head, Nick. But the Bears have come out today and kind of quelled some of those crazier thoughts. And we'll get into that here in just a moment. But we've just got some really interesting stories about the Bears here, Nick.
Yeah, and before we get into that, Bears fans, we want to hear from you guys in the comment section below. Look, it's obvious you've got a roster that's full of holes. The great news is you've got a lot of draft capital and you got a lot of salary cap space. But if you only had to address one position this offseason, if you could only choose one position to get better at, let us know in the comment section below. What position do you really think the Bears should get better at? And while you're down there in the comments, make sure you hit subscribe so that way every time we publish some Bears content, it gets sent right to you so that way you don't have to do anything. And we love talking about the Bears. But all right, Miles, give us the latest out of Chicago.
Yeah, Nick. So you mentioned draft capital, and that is a big one right now because the Bears have all but come out and said that Justin Fields is indeed going to be the guy. All of these crazy notions, potentially, maybe they're going after a quarterback, have kind of been quelled for the moment. And that is especially true per Albert Breer on the Rich Eisen show. He came out and he said that his sense is they're going to move forward with Justin Fields and try to trade down from the first pick. We gave our thoughts on what they could grab with the first pick, what might be nice, but also trading back from the first pick is ideal as well. Because as you said, they've got a lot of draft capital. Trading back with that first pick, they could get even more draft capital. So there's a lot of options on the table for the Chicago Bears now, Nick. But I think you have some really interesting thoughts on just why they decided to keep Fields himself. What do you got on Fields?
Well, I think it's not really necessarily Justin Fields per se, but just the entire decision behind the Bears coming out and being public about Fields, right? Because one of the things that happens every draft season is every GM, every head coach, every owner, every scout keeps it so close to the chest, right? They don't reveal anything. They could have Aaron Rodgers, they could have Pat Mahomes as their quarterback, and they're like, listen, you never know. We're going to evaluate every position. We're going to pick the best player available. There's a lot of great name this position in this draft. We're evaluating everybody. Like they don't, they keep their cards close to the chest for obvious reasons. They don't want to know what other teams, what they're thinking. The Bears came out and did the exact opposite. And I was like, why? Why would they do the exact opposite? Let people know that they don't want to draft a quarterback, most likely at number one overall. And then it occurred to me, there isn't a lot of demand for this trade for the number one overall pick, Mice. If you go back the last 20 years, only one time has a team been able to trade the number one overall pick and didn't get a quarterback when they traded back. So one team that already had a quarterback like Justin Fields and like the Bears have with Justin Fields, only one time, and that was the Tennessee Titans in 2015, I believe, were traded back from the number one overall spot. 6 other times, so 1 versus 6 here, 6 other times the team that had the number one overall pick wasn't able to trade back and they had to draft either a defensive lineman or an offensive lineman or something like that. The Bears could do that. We talked about that last week. But I think the fact that they're coming out openly saying they don't want a quarterback and they're shopping the pick says they're like, look, we're not looking to get a massive steal. We're not looking to get 5 first rounders and 3 second rounders here. We just want to get an appropriate amount of value. You can take that draft value chart that says moving from 1 to 8 is worth 3 first rounders and 2 second rounders. The Bears are saying like, look, forget about that. We'll move back and give us, a second and a third. Give us 2/3, third this year, third next year, something like that, because we have assets that we need to build up to fill these holes on this roster. And I think that's why the Bears came out and said this, right? Because there isn't a lot of demand for the ability to trade up. They need to send a message to the rest of the league that they're like, look, we know that not a lot of people want to trade up a lot of assets to move up to number one overall. We're not looking for a lot of assets. You can get this pick with a fair trade. We're not looking to rob you blind. And I think that's what the Bears are doing here because it's very clear they want to trade back and get something for it.
Yeah, because if you look at the 2 hot trade destinations would be the Texans or the Colts at this point in time. And the Texans from first to second, like I said, that you said there might not be a huge value there. But for the Colts feel like they're just out of reach of getting exactly the guy that they want. I believe in that 4th position there. And if the Colts are able to trade up to first, that might be very enticing to them, but that's about the only team, Nick. You look at a team like the Carolina Panthers all the way down there at 9th. I don't think they're going to want to move all the way up to first, but you never know. That's also another potential option. But the ones that I look at the most would be the Houston Texans or the Indianapolis Colts. And I think there's intriguing trade options there. But like you said, the second and fourth, they feel
Get
pretty
something
confident.
right. Get something right. Do you want, say Jalen Carter and that's it? Or do you want to move back to number 5 or number 8 and get a defensive lineman and then get 2 second-round picks and a third or whatever, like to get more players, to upgrade a lot more positions on the roster, right? I think that's a more value. Don't chase the home run ball, right? Don't go for broke and come up short like the 6 other teams I mentioned. If you can get something in return for the number 1 overall pick here for the Bears, it's a win.
Yeah, essentially, they're able to trade back and get pretty much who they would have gotten in the first round pick anyways.
Exactly.
So if you can get just a couple of upgrades, second, third round pick, whatever, as you mentioned, that would be beautiful. And I think all Bears fans, if you think about it, that would be ideal and anyone would be happy with that.